Well, looks like it's time to do the wheel bearing on this 2001 Lesabre. I've already done the ball joint, but I didn't film it because I just didn't feel like it. But I'm going to film the wheel bearing part of it, so I'm going to pull it in the shop and we'll get to it. I'll be using two different cameras, so they might sound and look a little bit different, but you'll just have to live with it. Alright, that's probably good enough. Let's get out and get to work. Alright, now I've got the car in the garage, and the first thing I'm going to do before I even jack it up is try to break this here nut loose. And I like to do that by hand usually, because my air compressor is pretty weak. And it doesn't usually like to break stuff like this off, but I'm going to throw that on there and hop on a little bit and see if I can't get the brake. There we go. And if I couldn't have got it to break, I do have a 6-foot cheater pipe. There we go. Now it's loose enough. I can go ahead and use my impact on it. I'm not going to show you that part because the compressor is noisy and the impact's noisy, so I'm just going to go ahead and zing that off, and I'll jack it up and take the tire off as well. Alright, I've got the car jacked up and I've got the wheel off. I've got the nut off the front here, and I've got you aimed at the back, and I'm going to go ahead and take the caliper off. Now, you could probably go ahead and take these two bolts out and take the whole caliper and bracket all at the same time, but that's just kind of a pain for me, and it's easier for me to take the caliper off, get the caliper itself out of the way, and then go ahead and take this bracket off. So that's what I'm going to do. Plus, it gives you a chance, if you want to grease up these pins, clean them up, make them look nice. So I'm going to go ahead and break these two loose and then pull the caliper out of the way. Hopefully I don't get any dirt in my camera, because that's my good one. And I don't have a socket handy, so I'm just using this 15 millimeter wrench. So it might take me a second or two. Alright, pull these pins out, and then you can grease these up if you feel like it. Might as well while you're in here. And check on your brakes. See if they're good, along with your rotor. You're taking it off anyway. Pull this caliper off. I usually just pry it, and they usually come off pretty good. Yeah, usually. Almost. If I had a hammer handy, it would probably make this go a little faster. Well, you're almost there. Come on now. A little bit tired today because I worked the last two. Alright, there we go. I got that off. So now I'm going to take some wire and wire it up on the strut tower, and then I'm going to go ahead and take these two bolts out. Hopefully you're aimed in the right direction, and take the brakes out, and we'll go from there. Alright, now as you can see, got that bracket off here. I didn't film it because I had to use the impact to do it. But that's out of the way, and I've turned the wheel this way, so hopefully I'll be able to hit this with a hammer right here and break it loose, and then tap it with my dead blow, which is got a plastic base on it, so it won't hurt anything. Tap from the back like that. Now these ones have been on there forever, so it'll probably take me a while to actually break it free, but now if you're doing this and you're saving the wheel bearing or the studs, be very, very careful you don't hit them, because if you do, you'll have to replace the stud. And also, don't hit that part with a hammer. See if I broke it loose enough. You can't even swing a hammer behind it. That looks like it's coming a little bit. I'm going to take it out of park. And when you take something out of park with the brake caliper off, be very careful that you don't hit the brake too hard. Otherwise you'll pop that cylinder or that piston right out of that caliper, and that's not a good thing. Oh, she's moving. Yeah, we're good. Not much room to swing over here. That's alright. Bitch, come on. I'd come in from the back side on the other side, but that wouldn't be much better, I don't think. Chewing up my poor hammer. Slowly but surely, I'll get it off. Ah, I wore out all the protective plastic on my hammer. Guess I better get another. There we go. Let's try it again. I had to downsize my hammer, but at least it's a little bit protective. I'll break it off there one way or another. That fucking thing is on there. The right arm's getting tired. I'm losing my accuracy. There we go. And that's how you take a rotor off a Buick, I guess. Well, this thing looks like it was fairly well chewed up on the back, but you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. But when I go back to put this thing together, I'll clean out the back side of this, and I'll have a new hub in here, but I'll put some anti-seize all around it, and then hopefully next time I go to take it off, I won't have to beat the piss out of it. Alright, now that I've got the rotor off and everything out of my way, at this point normally I would take an air chisel and I'd run it right in that little hole and I'd just push it back, you know, hit it until it goes back. Sometimes that works. I don't have very good air, so other times what I have to do is screw the nut back on if I'm saving the axle, which in this case I would be, and screw the nut on flush and then beat it with a hammer. That also works if it doesn't have this hole. If it's got kind of a rounded edge, it can be real tricky to keep the chisel on there. But in this case, we put this axle in not all that long ago, so after hitting it with the rotor with a hammer, it must have broke itself loose. So now what I'm going to try to do on this one, which I normally can't do, but I'm going to try on this one, is to take this off without having to break the ball joint loose, because most of the time on my cars anyway, this thing is so rusted in here, this bearing, that I have to get this out of the way, pop the ball joint out and get that out of the way, pull this out and beat it with a hammer to within an inch of its life just to get this off. But I think since this is a little bit newer vehicle, I'm going to try just taking these 3 bolts out, and then there's one on the other side. I'm going to take those 3 out and see if I can't get in there from behind with maybe a chisel or something and bang that out of there. Normally I wouldn't even try this, but this is a little bit newer. It might work. And if I need to, I suppose I can try putting a chisel or something in there and popping it out. But I'm going to go ahead and get these 3 bolts out and see what I can do. Alright, I've got the 3 bolts out of the back here, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot and smack it with a hammer and see if it comes off. Hopefully it will. Well, there it is. Now there's a clip back here behind it that I've got to get off. Just a little plastic tab. I'll show you what it looks like on the new one. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to take it off right now and show you it later. There we go. Now I've got to unplug the clip. And there's my wheel bearing. Not bad. That actually came out a lot easier than I thought it would. But there's definitely some roughness and some play in it. So, all right, let's go get the new one. All right. Well, here's the new bearing. It comes with this little plastic thing you got to take out, and this is the little clip that I undid on this metal piece here. And basically how it works is it slides up in there. It's just a little plastic thing and then clips in. So what you got to do when you go to take it off is go ahead and take a pair of pliers and squeeze those 2 in and then push it through and it'll pop out. That's how you get the old one out. And then of course you've just got a regular standard clip back here you pull out. So now I'm going to go ahead and set up the camera so you can see something, and we'll shove her back in. I'll probably come back and clean that out a little bit, and just clean it up, and then we'll throw it back in. Alright, now it's time to put the new wheel bearing in, and it only goes one way. You want to have the wire part up here at the top, because this is where it plugs in. I mean, you could screw it in backwards, you could screw it in this way, but then you wouldn't be able to plug in the ABS. So make sure you have that lined up to where the ABS goes. And then you've got this little bracket here that holds on the ABS, and it sits like that. Now again, with this one, I mean, you could, well, maybe you can't screw it up. Maybe it's idiot proof. Well, nothing's idiot proof. You can screw it up. You could have that on the wrong way. But this is the way it goes, like that. So I'll just set it there, and then I'll grab my bearing. I'll feed the wire through. That where it's got to be. And then I'll turn into a magician here, grow a couple of extra hands, and get everything lined up. Okay, looks like we're engaged. Look at that. Alright, well, that worked out pretty good. Now I can go ahead, come in from the back, and put a couple of bolts in it to hold it. And then I'll tighten them up once everything is lined up where it's got to be. Turn it a little bit. He's almost there. She's close. I got to stick my head back there and take a peek. Yeah, just a little bit off. I think I can get it in the top one. As long as I can get it started, we should be alright. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Grab my other two. Make sure they thread in. May have to wiggle it a bit, but that's basically how that's done. I'll go ahead and I'll tighten these up. I'll clip my ABS back in, plug that back in, and then we'll be able to put the brakes on and put everything back together. We're just about done. Alright, well, I've got those 3 bolts tight in the back. I'm sure it has a torque spec, but I don't know it, and I'm not going to look it up, so it is what it is. They're tight, and now I'm going to throw this rotor on. And as I said before, the rotor's all chewed up here. If I cared about this car or was doing it for somebody else, I tell them they need either a new rotor or get this turned. But since I don't care, I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to go ahead and grab my anti-seize, which I left out somewhere. I better go find that. There it is. Got myself some anti-seize, and the next time I take this rotor off, it probably won't be that long, so it won't be rusted on, but just in case, I'm going to take some anti-seize. I'm going to run it in here so it doesn't stick, or at least doesn't stick as bad, just in case. And it doesn't matter if you get it on the lug nuts. It's probably not a bad thing anyway, but I'm just going to goop it up there where it tends to corrode. And if it sticks to here, that's no big deal because I can hit it with a hammer. The toughest part is it rust. It builds up right on here, and it keeps you from taking the wheel off, so, or the rotor off. So now that I got that done, I can go ahead and put the rotor on and grab my bracket and my 2 bolts, put them on. It should go fairly fast if I can find the hole. There it is. Go ahead and zing those on. Well, alright, I've got the bracket back on, as you can see. Hopefully you can see. I better check. Yeah, you can see that, no problem. I've got the rotor back on, and I've got the bracket back on, and I've taken this old pry bar with a broken handle, and I've put it in there. Anything strong you can use. A screwdriver I'd be pretty leery because I have broken them off doing this before, but I'm going to go ahead and shove that in there, and I've gone ahead and I've taken the impact and I've screwed that down, but not all the way. There's still slack in there. You don't want to tighten it up with an impact because you can actually damage your new bearing if you snug it up with an impact. Not so much because you get it too tight, but because it has a hammering effect with the impact, and that can ruin the bearing. I suppose you could get it way too tight too and screw things up, but I'm going to go the rest of the way by hand and just get it kind of snugged up. I'm not going to go home on it. Not just yet anyway. I'm going to go get my torque wrench just to be safe, and I'm going to go set it for I believe 150. I will actually look in the book and see what those are supposed to be at, but I'm going to snug it up with the torque wrench, and then I can go ahead and put the brakes back on and we'll be good to go. Alright, well, I just looked up the spec and it's 118 foot-pounds. I think I said 150, but I meant to say 115. But the spec is 118. It's been a long day. My mind is going. That's alright, we'll see if we can get it. Oh, we already got it. Well, I'm going to back it off there just to make sure I got it, because sometimes if you tighten it up first and then takes a little bit more torque to break it loose. So I'm just going to break it loose like that, and we're going to get the 118 with the torque wrench. I probably would have been fine, but you want the torque wrench moving when you're torquing stuff down. You don't want to just you know, stop and then start again, otherwise you won't get it right. So I've got it at 118, so I'm just going to go until it clicks. There we go. That's 118. So now that I got that done, I can go ahead and throw the brakes back in. Now normally this would be a good time to clean these up and lubricate everything, but like I said before, I don't really care about this car, so I'm just going to throw it back in the way it is and call it good. Because as long as this thing doesn't start dropping parts on the freeway, I'm a happy camper. And if you watch any of my videos, you probably know that I don't really like this car all that much. I suppose it's not a horrible car, but I'm just tired of working on it. So now I'm going to go grab something to push that piston back a little bit so it slides over the brakes easier. I'll lower this caliper down, set it on there, get my wire off. And normally you lubricate these pins as well, but I'm not going to do that because they seem to be working fine, and I'm all for not working any harder than I have to when I'm working for free. So Snug these bad boys up. There's my 15. And that's pretty much it. I'll throw the wheel back on, and when I get in it, I will pump the brakes. Always do that if you push that piston back. It's usually a good idea to do that anytime you take the caliper off, because if you don't, you won't have any brakes right away, and if you throw it into gear, you will usually hit something, because that's the way things work. You'll not be paying attention and you'll back into a semi truck or something. I've seen that happen. Alright, well, let's see if it worked. I came in because it had quite an audible grinding noise, and I jacked it up and I felt the wheel bearing and there was some play in there. So let's see if that did the trick and took care of my noise. Pump up the brakes. Alright, now I got brakes. Well, so far I don't hear any grinding. You would have heard it by now, because it was grinding pretty good. Well, I'm going to take a quick shot on the black top and turn the camera back on when I get there, and we'll see, make sure it's not making any noise. Alright, we are on the black top now, getting up to speed. Here we go, 60. And that grinding is definitely gone. Got to check engine light. I don't know what it is. I don't really care. 194,000 miles. Oh, hopefully we'll get a few more thousand out of it and then just call it. But it worked. We're fixed. On to the next job.